all heard tales of Charlie the hero and Charlie the swashbuckling adventurer, but there's another side of Charlie that I'd like to share. And we each remember those who leave us in our own way. Charlie and I actually met in the summer of 1969, some 46 years ago, when I signed up for skydiving classes at the University of Minnesota Skydivers Club. Charlie ended up being one of the guys who taught us how to do PLFs, or parachute landing falls. I was a white-bread, straight-laced kind of girl from South Dakota, and he had longer hair than any boy I'd ever personally met. And I had my doubts about him, but he turned out to be okay. We shared the skydiving world for a couple of years while I was at school at the University of Minnesota. We attended the Collegiate Parachuting Championships in DeLand, Florida. And I remember sleeping under the orange trees on the drop zone and giggling in the morning when Charlie would, when I woke up and there was a twinkle in his eye and he was going to tell me exactly what the Zackleys meant. Charlie provided many of the 26 Cardinal Puff demonstrations that it took me to get my rank. And he was one who signed my card when I finally did. Actually, Charlie and I were roommates for a while in 1970. The relationship was totally platonic. He was always trying to make a case that he shouldn't have to pay as much for the toilet paper because boys didn't use as much toilet paper as girls. Actually, Charlie propositioned me one night in Manning's bar, mentioning that he had been told he had an incredible tongue. And I told him, thanks, but no thanks. I really didn't think we should risk ruining a perfectly good friendship. So the world turned and we both moved on and lost track. But 20 or so years later, Rob Johnson from the skydiving scene pulled off an amazing piece of detective work. And he located me in Louisiana without knowing anything more than my first name and the fact that I had been in veterinary school at the time all of us had been skydiving. And he invited me to this skydivers reunion that he was hosting. So I asked if Charlie was going to be there, and he said he didn't know, but he did make a point to find Charlie and invite him. So after 20 years, it was as if no time had passed. We just took up our friendship exactly where we left off and began moving forward. And over the next 10 years, we had a here and there, up and down, on and off, distance and intermittent courtship that was filled with volumes of emails and letters and some time together. He introduced me to rock climbing, Arthur Clarke and Robert Heinlein science fiction, constellations and planets, secret trails in the woods, blowing up beaver dams with dynamite, crazy ideas of all sorts. And I introduced him to dinner parties with department heads, Halloween parties with the fencers, crawfish boils, Mexican street food, veterinary conferences, children's swim meets. And we made missions to Mexico, New Zealand, England, and road trips around the U.S. We bought a house together, the Sky Ranch up on top of the hill. And Charlie continued his missions to Antarctica. When he returned from the ice in 1999, while he was at my house in Louisiana, I had an exacerbation of what was diagnosed as MS and ended up in the hospital with partial paralysis. I tried to send him away. The future was pretty uncertain, and Charlie didn't strike me as a caretaker type. But he wouldn't go. He assured me that he had plenty of socks to keep his feet warm. And he hung in there. And later that spring he asked me to marry him. So, of all the scary things that Charlie did, from climbing Erebus, jumping out of airplanes, walking on high beams above the ground, I'm pretty sure that the scariest thing Charlie ever did was propose marriage. And we were married in 1999. We eloped. We planned to marry at Artist Point on Lake Superior in Grand Marais. And on the day we had planned, June 1st, 1999, it was sleeting and blowing, and the temperature was 37 degrees. And it was not really conducive to hiking out on the point to get hitched. So we were standing in the market, a little gift shop in the main drag in Grand Marais, warming up, trying to decide what to do. And two little old ladies who ran the shop overheard our plight and said, "Well, why don't you get married here?" And we looked at each other and we'd say, "Oh, okay." So the shopkeepers moved some of the racks and rearranged things so that we had a space. We called the justice of the peace we had booked and told her the change of plans. She and the witnesses subsequently went to a different gift shop that had a similar name, and we were left standing there. And this was all the days before cell phones and texting, but eventually it all came together, and we were married that day at the market in Grand Marais. So, back in Louisiana, I had a full-time day job and 3 rambunctious children. So I was not what you'd call spatially or temporally agile. We still were doing the intercontinental, transcontinental thing. Charlie did give it a crack at being a soccer dad and intermittently lived the life of married with children in Louisiana. But our happily ever after as husband and wife lasted just 5 years. Where are Willie Nelson and Julio Iglesias when you need them to sing All the Girls I've Loved Before? Charlie was loved by many, and I'm sure I'm speaking for many when I say he had the knack of making you feel special, as if you were the only one, his secret love, and it was quite a lovely feeling. But Charlie was a bit long on vanity. He once confessed to me that the reason he overwintered the one season in Antarctica was because it was his 40th birthday, and he couldn't bear having his friends haze him for getting old. He lied about smoking even when caught in the act. He would have risked crashing into a cliff in a jump plane rather than embarrass himself by tapping the shoulder of the pilot to warn him that danger appeared ahead, just in case the pilot really knew and was just playing with the jumpers, which was the case. But this is the same guy who flew to Arizona to drive Val and her newborn baby back home. And he went to the nursing home to visit my mother while I was at work, when he was living with us. He was so dedicated to caring for his mom and his sister. So Charlie the adventurer was just a bit of a poser. He wasn't quite as badass as you might think. So Charlie had read about this Indian tribe where people customized their nicknames for each other, often varying with the circumstances. And over time, I called Charlie by at least 24 different names, and he called me by some 30. The favorites, though, were from Robert Heinlein's Time Enough for Love, Lazarus and Dorval. Charlie, the immortal, ever-young, long-lived Lazarus Long, and Dorval, the ephemeral, the one they both knew would grow old and die. They knew love would never be forever, but they still loved. This is from one of the messages between Charlie and me from February of 1994. If we are lucky, there will be many things in this life to love, and each has a special place and perhaps even a special time. And if a person is smart, she will every morning thank whatever God in which she believes for the opportunity to love. For these are the things that give the world richness and make the world smile. So he wasn't mine for all times, just for some time, and that will just have to be enough. Journey on, Lazarus. Love, adorable.